Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard. Along with me is Scott Reynolds. It is playoff time. The Bucs against the Washington football team on Saturday, 8:15 p.m. It is a primetime night game. We will be holding our collective breaths. But today on the show, Scott and I will be breaking down this matchup in depth, Scott. There is a lot to get to. We have an unbelievable red-hot offense against a defense that honestly has been really good all season in Washington's. And we have a Bucs defense kind of trying to find their way and get back to the dominant play they showed early in the season against the Washington offense that is struggling and may even have some quarterback questions. So this show, Scott, I know I say it every time we get on here, but this show, we're going to have to pack a lot in to get to all of this and to the fans' questions today too.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this is what you want, right? This is not just any Pewter Report podcast. This is the playoff preview podcast where John and I were going to give you a little sneak peek on who we think is going to win on Saturday night. And, Of course, we'll have more detailed analysis, and we'll have also the predictions from Mark and Matt and Taylor on Friday's Pewter preview and predictions. So be sure to check that out. And we've got a new SR's Fab 5 coming out on Friday as well. So the holidays are over and we've got that. So John, there was some big developments today in our nation's capital. We'll get to that in a second. But first, we want everyone to know that this podcast is energized by Celsius. Let's go. Celsius. This is Celsius heat. You got the orange.
I've got the heat. It's in. Is that the jackfruit?
This is the jackfruit. Exactly.
What do you think?
Now, well, here's the thing. I haven't had it yet. I'm going to have it tomorrow. This is my first time having the jackfruit. And this is a carbonated beverage. This is Performance Energy. This is a little bit bigger can than the other energies. And the thing about this is with the jackfruit, and the reason why they call it Celsius heat is because when you power through a workout, you're going to taste that exotic flavor of the jackfruit. Yep. And its ingredients are their key vitamins, 2,000 milligrams of L-citrulline and 300 milligrams of caffeine. So you're going to get a nice little boost to your workout there. This is a performance energy drink that's designed to increase the thermogenesis and give you a boost of energy. So it actually raises your body temperature a little bit to help you burn calories and ultimately burn fat. So you're going to be hearing a lot more about this. They've got a bunch of new flavors for the Celsius heat. Right now comes in Inferno Punch, Orange Sickle, which I want to try, Cherry Lime, Strawberry Dragon Fruit, and Blueberry Pomegranate. Those are the two new flavors. So you'll be hearing more about that. Just in case you didn't know, Celsius powers active lives with essential energy, and I didn't have one today. I needed one on Monday, and I didn't have it, but I had one yesterday, and did a lot of work on the Fab 5 today, so I was already energized. But I'm going to have this guy tomorrow when I go for my workout. So if you want to know where to get the Celsius heat or the regular Celsius drinks, it's real simple. Go to Celsius.com, click on the store locator, find a convenience store, grocery store, nutrition store near you, or you can click on those wonderful Celsius banner ads on PewterReport.com. They're going to take you to Amazon where you can buy them in bulk. If you're not sure which flavor you want, you get the variety pack, and it's got a whole bunch of assortment of flavors there. You can find out which ones you like and don't like, and then order them in bulk on Amazon and save a bunch of money. So, John, let's get to the big news today in our nation's capital. Taylor Heinicke was taking first team reps, right?
Yep. 27 years old. He started one game in his career. He's thrown 77 career passes. He might be starting for Washington.
And that's interesting development because we've heard Bruce Arians talk about how Washington is not a 7-9 football team. He says they're 4-1. I believe they're actually 5-1 with Alex Smith as the starter, but a totally different team, right?
Yeah.
A totally different offense, and you've got a veteran hand at the wheel in Alex Smith as opposed to Heinicke, who is in his fourth season out of Old Dominion and played in just one game this year. That was a 20-13 loss at Carolina. They fell behind, I believe, 20-0 against the Panthers, and wasn't enough to lead them to a comeback. But he did throw a touchdown in the game.
Right.
kind of a smaller, more mobile guy. And really right now, when you look at Alex Smith, and we'll get to the injury report in just a second, he's got that calf injury, John.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is I think that calf tightened up a little bit in that night game on Sunday night. This is a game that's going to be played in Washington, in Maryland.
Yeah.
And it's going to be cold. Yep. And you have to wonder if Alex Smith, maybe he starts the game, but they want to get Heineke ready, because if that calf tightens up in the cold again, they might have to make a quarterback switch.
Right. I mean, this is what's so fascinating about this game, Scott, is you have this unbelievable. I mean, the Bucs offense is as hot as any offense in the league right now, and the Washington defense has been unbelievable. And I watched tape of them today, and I have a lot to talk about them, man. I am so impressed with the way they play. I think it is going to be a huge, huge challenge for the Tampa Bay offense.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the ball, man, I'm not even like the Bucs defense is not, the league's best, which early in the season they looked like they were. They're not the league's worst for sure. They're a solid, capable unit. They've had some really rough games. They've had some really rough periods of games too. They have, full 4 quarters. They've avoided total letdowns mostly for the most part over 4 full quarters. But this matchup, Scott, when Washington has the ball, I am not sure what to say. I mean, there couldn't be more of a difference between their offense and their defense right now. Their offense just has no bite. They have talent, but like you said, Gibson's playing hurt, McLaurin's playing hurt, Smith is playing hurt. The offensive line has kind of honestly played above their level most of the season when everyone was healthy and they were getting the ball out quick. But honestly, they haven't run the ball consistently well. They don't create splash plays in the passing game like at all. Not only do they not create them, they also don't even attempt them for the most part. So it is a really simple offense. They pride themselves kind of on not beating themselves. Even against Philadelphia, they were kind of beating themselves a little bit. And so it is tricky. It is tricky to see how Washington, Tampa Bay would have to literally give them the ideal game plan, I think, for Washington to be able to execute. And that is no pass rush, soft coverage, and not being able to contain the pocket, especially if Heineke's in there. To me, that's how Tampa Bay loses the game.
Yeah, I agree. And we teased the injury report. Let's get to that now. We got a question from Jimmy Morrow. I noticed JPP on the injury list 2 days in a row did not participate. Is he hurt or are they just resting him, Scott? Well, both.
That's every week.
Yeah, Jason Pierre-Paul is a warrior. He has been banged up with that knee for most of the season. And I think that at this stage of the game, this is a veteran. This is a guy who's just turned 32 years old. He knows what he's doing. He can watch and get the mental reps from the sidelines. You need him at as close to 100% as possible on Saturday night. And especially with this being a short week, I think it's wise to rest JPP. I'd be a little concerned if he's not out there tomorrow, John, and Thursday's practice. But at the same time, even if he didn't practice at all this week, I would not be surprised if JPP, much like Mike Evans, wants to get on the field. But technically today he did not participate. The Bucs did get some good news, and I think it's important too with JPP, and I've been on his case a little bit to note that he does have that knee injury, but really since the Vikings game when he had that sack, fumble recovery at the end of the game, he's not really been the same guy. Went to Atlanta, didn't even make it on the stat sheet, and I believe has 5 tackles between the last 2 games, the wins at Detroit and then at home against the Falcons. But the Buccaneers did receive some better news today. Carlton Davis was limited. He didn't participate in Tuesday's walkthrough, but on Wednesday was at practice and participated. LaShawn McCoy, who was not injury related, was back at full practice today. He was out on Tuesday. Ronald Jones listed as a finger and a quad injury, but he's been full participation these last 2 days. And then in terms of the big story, right, is Mike Evans. He did not participate today. That's not a surprise given that he had that hyperextended knee injury. Right. The other guy that didn't participate was Jeremiah Ledbetter with the calf injury. The Washington football team, Jonathan Allen was a full participant after missing Tuesday's walkthrough. Thomas Davis Sr., the old linebacker from Carolina, he's now with Ron Rivera once again, did not participate these last 2 days with the knee injury. Kendall Fuller, the cornerback, was limited today. He's a new addition to the injury report in Washington. Antonio Gibson, after missing the walkthrough on Tuesday, was limited today with a toe injury. That's interesting to note. Terry McLaurin, their other big weapon on offense, the wide receiver, didn't participate with an ankle injury on Tuesday, was limited today. The other 3 injuries, Kevin Pierre-Louis, the linebacker, ankle injury limited. Brandon Sheriff, the guard, shoulder injury limited. And Alex Smith, the calf injury, was limited today. But again, if you're just joining us, Taylor Heineke took the first team reps at quarterback today, John. And it's interesting to note that we heard Ron Rivera say that they might use 2 quarterbacks in this week's game.
Right. And I think, what's funny is it's funny to hear people lately, they're talking about Alex Smith and they're like, well, Alex Smith's not mobile. Alex Smith's always been mobile, but he's not now in his current state, after the leg injury and then the big comeback and then, the calf injury now that he's working through. Yeah, his mobility's really been pretty limited, but over the course of his career, he's probably been, it's probably been one of his bigger assets. And so that's where Taylor Heineke comes in. 3 carries, 22 yards last time he was on the field. But he played really well, honestly. I mean, he came in against Carolina and almost gave them a spark, really, threw a touchdown. He was a little more willing to throw the ball down the field, too. I mean, in all the snaps that he's taken, almost 300 snaps, Alex Smith has only thrown 24 deep balls. 24 times has he thrown 20-plus yards in the air. And so he's not been throwing down the field very often at all. Well, Heineke came in for two quarters, I think it was something like that, three quarters, I don't remember. And he threw 5 of those deep balls. And so he kind of was almost matching Smith there as, or higher rate anyway than Smith with what he was trying to put the ball down the field. And he only hit 1 of those and it was for a touchdown. But it's hard to know totally what to expect because he's played so little. Like I said, 77 career passes. He is a guy who will run the ball a good bit and he will try to scramble. But again, like this, we're talking about these guys and we're breaking them down, but in the reality, like Scott, like Taylor Heineke's 27 years old and he started one time in the NFL and he threw 3 picks and he lost the game and they scored 10 points. Like, I don't care. Like you got to stop the guy. Like, I don't care what he looked like against Carolina in the second half when they hadn't prepped for him, like whatever. Like, I mean, you got to totally shut him down. I'm not talking about 17 points. I'm not talking about 19 points, whatever it was to the Bears. And this has to be like a Lions type game, right? For the Bucs defense. I mean, I know McLaurin's a good player, but he's definitely not been himself either recently. And Washington hasn't run the ball very well. It's honestly like there's just no excuse for this defense. I think that Tampa Bay's offense that we'll talk about in a second, I think they are going to have periods of time in this game where they struggle, basically because everybody who's played Washington has not consistently moved the ball this season.
Them continuing to score 40 points per game like they've done the last 2 games.
Right.
So Jimmy Mora asked this question, John. Is the Washington defense, are they better than the Rams defense?
Well, what's really funny about this is they're actually they're probably the most similar unit to the Rams. I know that's going to scare fans a lot probably, but they're probably the most similar unit to the Rams. I asked our boy PFF Moo, I was like, what are the main coverages for Washington without me wanting to go through and chart all their games this week?
Right.
Can you just tell me what the main coverages are for Washington? And they're primarily cover 3, cover 4 type of team. So they are trying to stop the long ball. That's kind of their whole, and they'll rotate between those 2. They don't rotate safeties a ton. Snap. That is kind of the distinction.
John,
the Rams did that a lot more.
I think that plays into Hezo813's comment, and then a question we have here. Bucs been using a lot more quick screens to AB and Godwin. I expect to see that more often. Stairway to Evans says, do you think the Bucs have been using wide receiver screens with AB to counter blitzes? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think they have put some design plays in there to quickly get the ball out of Brady's hands and to stymie any pass rush attempts. So I expect to see a good deal of that for 2 reasons. Number one, it doesn't give Chase Young, Montez Sweat, or Tim Sell or anybody in the Redskins front the time to get to Brady. Number 2, it's working, right? I mean, we've seen Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin and Scotty Miller on occasion really, get some serious yardage out of that. And I think that it's a great play to use on first down when you're typically going against more off coverage, right? Where teams might be expecting a little bit more of a possible run, especially with Tampa Bay being so predictable for much of the season running on first down, to come out and do that. We saw that at the stadium, John. Antonio Brown gets 5 or 6 yards on first down. All of a sudden, it's 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5, completely manageable down and distance that you can pick up on 2nd down and avoid 3rd downs, like Bruce Arians talked about. If you struggle on 3rd downs, avoid them. Do something on 1st and down to not put yourself in position to be in third and long or third and short situations.
Right. No, I think it's a great point, Scott. I mean, one of the things that you saw, the game I went back and watched was Seattle. I wanted to watch a recent game against an offense that was more explosive. Carolina may have told me something. Philadelphia wasn't going to tell me anything early about Washington and how they defend. Totally different team and scheme. And so I was trying to find something, okay, where are there some similarities? And so I went back to watch the Seattle game. Seattle scored 20 points. They won. I think it was 20-15, if I remember correctly. And, man, it was just a chore. Moving the ball for Seattle was really hard. I mean, they got in position off some Washington penalties and off some Russell Wilson scrambles. And that was it. I mean, they could not hit plays down the field. Washington plays a lot of too high. Even, I see these percentages as cover three. What PFF Moo, our boy Timo Riske sent me. He said, 34% of the time they're in cover three. About 22% of the time they're in quarters, and about 21% of the time they're in cover one. So they do play man. They do play man, and you can see cover two on tape too. They will mix it up for sure. Like I said, don't rotate the safeties a lot, but for the Bucs, absolutely. When they're in that off coverage, I mean, I definitely think throw the ball out there. You've got the screen game. That was really what Seattle tried to do, honestly. They got some quick hitting stuff going. And one thing Seattle did after their first two drives really weren't very successful. They started going play action, play action, play action. And that can work too. So it has to be a play action heavy game. And it has to be getting the ball out quick, right? Frustrate the defensive line. The other thing, Scott, you can run the ball in Washington. They are good up front. They're great up front. But they don't. Matt Ioannidis is their best run stuffer, and he's out. He's injured. He's been injured this season, and so that is kind of you can run the ball, but it doesn't matter. You can, but you have to get into the more predictable situation or more unpredictable situations to get them out of looks that will cause them to shut down the run. But once you can do that, if you can keep them off balance a little bit, you can have success running the football at some point in this game against Washington. Right. They are a little bit smaller on the defensive line up front in the inside especially. So it can be a game where the Bucs are successful doing that stuff, I think. But again, it is going to be a patient game plan. Washington is tied with the Rams. We saw the question about the Rams, tied with the Rams this year in the least amount of 20-plus yard pass plays given up this season. They just don't let you throw the ball down the field very well. Whenever Seattle tried to do it, guys were just plastered by Washington DBs.
And you know what, too? The thing about the Washington football team is, yes, they've got the number 2 ranked pass defense, and part of that is because they take away those deep balls, and it'll be interesting to see. And I think having a quarterback like Tom Brady who's patient, and we've seen the evolution of Byron Leftwich to calling shorter passes rather than the typical BA, five-step drop, heave it downfield, hit the vertical routes. I think that Washington has not seen a passing attack like Tampa Bay this year. If you look, I mean, they played the Eagles twice, right? They've had problems this year at the quarterback position in terms of passing the ball, whether it's Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts. Dallas, right? They played Dallas twice, and I believe by that point in time, Dak Prescott was out. So you're playing Andy Dalton and some backups there. They played the Ravens earlier this year. They like to run the ball rather than throw it. And Lamar Jackson might throw for 3 touchdowns in a game, but he might only throw for 150 yards because they're a ground-oriented team. They played Arizona earlier this season. Cleveland will sling the ball around the yard for sure. The Rams can throw the ball and do. At the same time, a lot of their passing game is really short, rhythmic stuff. They've also played the Giants. We've seen Daniel Jones really struggle as a passer. They've played Detroit. They played Cincinnati. And in that game, we saw Joe Burrow get hurt. They played a run-oriented team in San Francisco. They played Seattle. They really have – they played the Panthers a couple of weeks ago. They have not played a team that will just light you up for 350 yards like Tom Brady's Buccaneers will.
That's why I wanted to watch the Seattle game, because Seattle was really the only, especially the recent games. Early in the season, they were giving up 30 points a game. Really, or to the Rams, to the Washington, to Cleveland, like all those games were 30-plus points. Then they started figuring it out a little bit before midseason and started totally turning things around. They gave up 30 to Detroit, but again, you're right. Up until that Seattle game, they really hadn't played like the Steelers, San Francisco. Those teams aren't putting the ball down, or they're playing, the Bengals. Those are all teams that are at the bottom of the league in explosive pass plays this season. Like they just haven't happened. Philadelphia, same thing. Carolina's done it some, but lately they've really struggled. So wasn't a good, but so Seattle is like, man, I know they haven't played their best football late in the season, but they'll put the ball down the field. They're a vertical passing attack in a lot of ways. They hunt the big play. They've created a lot of them this season. So that's why I wanted to watch that game. And I came away thinking, man, it's tough. Like they play a lot of too high. They keep everything in front of them, but they rally to the football. I mean, these guys are not sit back on your heels and wait for you. If you catch it on a screen, we're going to sit back on our heels and wait for you to run to us. No, they are come up, hit. They play with a ton of confidence, Scott. And I tell you what, Chase Young plays every snap like an undrafted free agent. I mean, he plays like he's trying to earn a spot on the roster. Probably with some of the best effort I've seen from a player in the NFL this year watching tape. I mean, he's incredible. He gets out on screens. He gets way out on outside zone runs, and he's dancing with the blocker. I mean, he doesn't stay blocked. He's incredible. He's going to be, top 5 defensive player in the league, I think, and he's already on his way there. So he makes some great plays, and honestly, Sweat does too. Those guys get their hands up. They tip balls a ton, and one of those could change a game. And so those are things you all have to be aware of if you're an offense. But you are right. They have not played an offense since like week 6 or 7 that was playing their best football when they played Washington. It just hasn't, you talk about Pittsburgh and Seattle both being good teams this season, obviously, but both of those offenses had been sputtering before they played Washington. And so it is different. And you could say the same about Tampa. They haven't played, Atlanta's defense was playing better, but Tampa Bay has not played their best offensive game against the best defenses they played, the Rams and the Saints specifically. And so they have something to prove as well in this game. I think both sides do. We're going to find out a lot about how for real. We know both groups are good. There's no question or denying that. You can look at the Bucs offense. You can look at Washington's defense. Every single category that matters in the league, they're ranked high in. Right. The question is, how good are both of them? Are they good enough to overcome the greatness of the other one? That's the real question.
Well, and I think too, as Gene Leon 16K asks, how many points will likely be needed for the win? 20 to 25 plus. When I was looking at Washington, right, because this is a points driven league that we're in, and I mean that. Whereas like the Buckball back in the day, where defense and running game, that they would win championships. The league has just evolved so much. It's a passing game, and obviously Jason Light knew that. That's why when you look at some of his best draft picks, they've been wide receivers, right? Starting with Mike Evans his first pick ever in 2014, Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, recently Justin Watson, Tyler Johnson. He's really stockpiled this team with the weapons needed in the passing game, and that's why I believe that if Tampa Bay can get off to an early lead and really get Washington out of their game, which is to try to be balanced and try to use those running backs, Kissick and Gibson out of the backfield, catching the ball. And I think without Devin White, with Kevin Minter starting, John, they're going to have to play more zone coverage. I know fans don't want to hear that, but I think you're going to see more soft zone coverage just because what we saw last week with that huge run by Brian Hill, Sean Murphy-Bunting, they were in man coverage on that play. And he turned and ran, and all of a sudden Hill broke containment. And before Sean Murphy-Bunting knew it, the play was coming right at him. So that was basically just a designed decoy. That receiver took Murphy-Bunting down the field. And so to defend against the flat, whether it's McKissick or Gibson catching the ball, they're going to have to play, I think, some cover 2, some cover 3 zone, and watch that short game, because Alex Smith is a guy that likes to get the ball out of his hands quickly. He's not mobile. He took a gruesome hit. He doesn't want to get hit any more than Tom Brady does. So I think you're going to see a similar type of attack from Washington that the Rams used with Jared Goff. Really quick rhythmic stuff to try to get Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul flustered and not able to reach the passer.
Yeah, and that's normal for Washington too. They're 27th in play action rate, which is good for the Bucs defense. They don't don't really use it very often. Their 8th fastest time to throw, in other words, so they're getting the ball and they're getting it out of there. They're faster. Everybody raves about Tom Brady's release and all this, and how fast he is to throw. Well, Washington throws it faster than Brady does. And so, they get it out there still somehow, Scott. I don't really know how this is possible, but despite having the 8th fastest time to throw in the NFL this season, they have the 2nd highest sack percentage on dropbacks this season, Washington, no matter who's at quarterback. So they are allowing sacks at a crazy rate, even though they throw the ball very quickly. And I don't think it's all the offensive line for sure. They're tied for the 2nd most sacks surrendered this season as a team. And Alex Smith has surrendered more than his fair share. Dwayne Haskins got sacked a bunch. Kyle Allen got sacked a bunch. Really doesn't matter who's in there. So there are some protection issues for sure. I think a lot of it's on the quarterbacks not setting the protection well.
I agree.
And for Alex Smith, it's been escapability, Scott. He doesn't move like the Alex Smith we're used to seeing when he was in his prime.
Stairway to Evans asks, why in the world did the Bucs sign Deion Buchanan? Dude couldn't make the team last year. Why bring him back now? Well, I think the reason why is because if something were to happen in practice this week or even on game day, if Kevin Minter wakes up and all of a sudden he's not feeling well or something, they got to have somebody with experience. And Buchanan knows this system dating back to his days in Arizona, and then obviously had the training camp and part of the season with the Bucs. Then he went on to the Giants, where he was familiar with the scheme there. So I think that this is just kind of a safety precautionary type of move for the Buccaneers, not to get caught with their pants down if something were to happen to Levante David or Kevin Minter or even some of the backups, right? Like Jack Sidgey. So this is just it's a practice squad signing. And we'll see. He can also play special teams. Who's got some familiarity with Bruce Arians.
Might have had something to do with Chappelle Russell playing one snap in coverage and giving up a touchdown.
Yeah, that might have had something to do with it. So.
It could have been that too. But no, I mean, it's a good question. Deion Buchanan has not been very good for every year of his career except for like one, I think. But he does know the system well, and he try hard guy. And so again, it's. At this point in the season, it's really about security blankets.
If I had to bet, John, I would bet that he probably doesn't play on Sunday. This is just a practice squad move. So if I had to bet, that's what I would say.
Right.
And where if I was going to bet, where that would be, John?
You'd probably make that bet over at MyBookie would be my guess.
Exactly where I'd make that bet, John. I'd make it at MyBookie. And with that in mind, say hello to January 2021. From an expanded NFL playoffs with 3 games on Saturday and 3 games on Sunday.
Love it.
This is awesome for a wild card weekend, right? I mean, I love that the league has expanded the playoffs to get you 3 games on each day. Then you throw in the BCS National Championship game around the corner. The return of the NBA and the NHL is right around the corner, and it's truly a great month to be a sports fan here in January. I tell people all the time, head over to MyBookie if you want to add a little excitement to the sports that you love to watch, and that's where you want to place your bets. I don't use MyBookie because some corporate overlord told me to. I use them because, well, that's where I like to bet, and they're the best. I've been betting with MyBookie for 3 years now, and I'm glad that they ended up advertising with PewterReport.com on our Pewter Report podcast because probably wouldn't have known about them otherwise, but I have a lot of fun doing it. Happened to win big on the Bucs last week, John, so I haven't placed my bets for this week yet, haven't seen the spreads yet. I usually do some investigating around midweek, but I'm definitely going to head over to MyBookie. And here's the thing. If you do too, if you go to mybookie.ag, they're going to hook you up with a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. So when you sign up, you're going to keep the good times rolling. They've got free giveaways. They've got free bets. They've got huge contests all year long. So bet on MyBookie all the way through the spring because you got spring college basketball. You're going to have Major League Baseball coming. A lot of sports happening right now. It's simple. Sign up at mybookie.ag. Use the promo code Pewter and get your deposit matched halfway up to $1,000. Head over to MyBookie today. Start your 2020 year off right. This year, bet with the best. Bet with MyBookie. Use promo code Pewter to get in on that half deposit match.
Yep. Sounds like a great deal and a good chance to win yourself some cheese. Good question from Hoss Y. Juke, John, Scott. So if you guys had to design the defensive game plan for this game, what would it look like? I am fine with, I don't think zone coverage is bad in this game, but you just need to be aware of what's happening. One of the problems is you have to be able to play zone and man in the NFL today. Like, you're not just going to play one or the other. So I'm not even overly critical of Todd Bowles for that. There are certain times situationally, and there are the fact that he's relied on it too much, then he needs to be putting these corners in more press man situations. I think those are problems, but I'm never suggesting like don't play zone at all. Like, you need to be able to play both. But my biggest thing is, why are we still having these corners bail out so much in their pedal? You know, they're playing 10 yards off as it is. Play flat-footed and drive on anything downhill, you know, and Carlton does that a little bit, but that is not – Sean Murphy Bunting is getting out of there so fast every single week, and it's something that has to be coached up with him. Again, there's so many technical things with him, and give him credit, he said it himself after the game on Sunday, but that has to be better with him, I think. You know, Jamel Dean, it was a little bit of the opposite issue, and he was sitting on things, looking in the backfield a little bit too much, and so he needed to get out of there a little bit quicker. But yeah, with the other guys, it's definitely been, even Davis at times, you know, in Whitehead when he's playing in the slot too, you do not give ground to these guys. You know, make them beat you with a double move over the top or something like that. Make Washington make that type of a play. Drive downhill. That's how Washington's guys play. If you watch them, they might play 8 yards off, but they're closing in a hurry. I mean, they are not giving ground and then reacting to what's happening in front of them. So it's more about technique than it is about scheme. I think schematically you can do a lot of different things to stop Washington's offense. And I think blitzing is something that you should do, especially if you're not getting pressure with 4. Like,
and you know what, John? I'd blitz right off the bat. Yeah. I would, like, first series, I'd come right at Alex Smith, set the tone, put them on their heels, make them think right off the bat, rather than, you know, not try to give up the big play the soft zone. I'm all for playing zone, but I agree with you, John. You want the corners up, getting their hands on McLaurin and the other receivers. They're both names, Sims, even the big tight end, Logan Thomas. And I would bring some pressure. I would get him right at Alex Smith's face quickly, try to hurry him, try to harass him, set the tone, and not wait to make those adjustments. Because I'll tell you what, I don't think the Washington football team's game plan, John, is to hit a big play. I don't think that they're kind of a patient offense. We've talked about that. They don't take many deep shots. So I don't think it's going to be like Kansas City, where all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes is going to come out bombs away. And I don't think McLaurin's going to have 200 yards in the first quarter like Tyreek Hill did. So I think that with Carlton Davis playing, like we believe he will, Jamel Dean on the other side, I'm all for being more aggressive with some press action at the line of scrimmage, but definitely bring the linebackers. Because you know what? Kevin Minter is a damn good blitzer, and he's much better going forward than he is in reverse, just like his LSU counterpart, Devin White. Mm-hmm. And I think Levante David, get him involved in some blitzing as well. Blitz the nickel. If you want to put Sean Murphy Bunting in the game, roll the safety down over the slot and blitz him. I'd like to see a myriad of blitzes from Bowles. I don't think he's going to do it, but I'd like to see that, because I think that could rattle Washington's offense early.
I want to see him use my defensive package, to be honest, Scott. Just plug in Kevin Minter where Devin White was going to go. Yeah. And that article's up on pewterreport.com. You can check that out too. But yeah, plug in Kevin Minter there, play him on the line a little bit, move him around. You know, and I think play Jordan Whitehead at the second level, play Jordan Whitehead in space. You know, again, this is a run and chase and rally to the football and finish. Jordan Whitehead is great at recognizing concepts in front of him, attacking downhill, taking good angles, finishing as a tackler in open field. That's where his strengths are. He's not very good in deep coverage. So put Mike Edwards and Antoine Winfield back there, especially on, you know, second, third, and long. You know, if you're shutting down the run on first down, or if you're up in the game and you're forcing Washington out of their comfort zone, you know, continue to take away the outlets and continue to take away the chunk gains that they can get by putting the ball down underneath. And so that's how they've lived, man. Washington has lived with those short passes, get the ball out, get into second and manageable, get into third and manageable, and get to 20 points. You know, they average, 20.9 points per game, 25th in the NFL in points per game, and they made the playoffs.
You know what, John? This is a Washington team that has scored over 30 points just one time this year. One. And that was on Thanksgiving, and they had a pick six from Montez Sweat in that game. So it was really the defense helping get them over the 40-point threshold. But you look at Tampa Bay and their offense, and you know they've had 4 games over 40 points, including the last 2. So this is a real dynamic offense that the Bucs have. And again, I don't think that Washington has seen an offense like this. If it's going to come down to two things offensively for the Buccaneers. And part of me wants to say the running game, but it's really more the offensive line play. If the offensive line can just, I'm not even saying dominate, but if they can just hold their ground, if they can almost stalemate that Washington defensive front, and win some and lose some, but not have it be one-sided where Washington can, because they get some good active defensive tackles. You talked about Jonathan Allen on Monday, John. Tim Settle has got 5 sacks. He's kind of their situational nickel rusher. So they've got some guys, not just Sweat and Young on the outside, but the defensive tackles. I'd like to see Marpet, Kappa, Jensen hold their own in the interior. And I think if they do that, and Tampa Bay's receivers can do some damage, whether it's going downfield or in the short game to move the chains, I like Tampa Bay's chances. Putting up, 40 points in 4 games this year, and then looking at the schedule, they've gone over the 30-point threshold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Half of their games, the Bucs have scored 30 points or more, and of course that's why they average 30.8 points per game. And since the bye week, again, they've averaged 37 points per game. So I think Byron Leftwich has really done a good job over these last couple of weeks coming off the bye to really incorporate some different things and not make the Bucs so predictable in offense, John. I think that has led to this explosion of points, not just the fact they're playing some chump, defenses, but I just think that they've figured out how to get the best of both worlds, get some big plays downfield, but also take advantage of some underneath stuff to keep the chains moving and keep the possession going, so you don't have to punt.
Right. Yeah, it's actually crazy how well Washington has played against passing attacks this season, but at the same time recognizing that I believe you're fully right, that a passing attack like Tampa Bay's has not really come into contact with this defense. Well, like I said, Seattle's was the closest, and they did a great job in that game. I do think that Washington's defense is no joke. I think it's one of the best in the league. I don't think that people are over-exaggerating on that at all. Just some statistics for you, Scott. Opposing, they're first in passing yards per game against this season. Their opposing completion percentage this season, they're 3rd best in the league. So they are limiting completion percentage significantly. So a lot of incomplete passes this season. In Bruce Arians' offense, that can get to be an issue sometimes if they're trying so many high degree of difficulty throws. That's where Washington's had success at getting incompletions, putting you in second and long if you're throwing on first down, for example. Opposing yards per attempt. So again, even if you're completing them, you're not getting much out of it when you're throwing against them. I already said 20-plus yard pass plays, opposing yards per attempt, they're 2nd best in the league. Opposing 20-plus yard pass plays, they're tied for 1st best in the league. Opposing touchdown passes this season, I think just 21 or something like that, tied for 2nd best in the NFL. Yak allowed, so that, again, 2nd best in the league in yak allowed. They have not allowed many yards after the catch. That's something Tampa Bay's kind of gotten going more recently. Across the board, they've been terrific against the pass this season.
Yeah, speaking of pass defense, Gene Leon 16K asks, assuming Mike Evans plays at 80%, and we don't know that he's at 80%, and we don't know that he's going to play yet, but let's assume that he does play for the sake of the question here. Who is the Bucs' most important receiver given the Washington football team's defense and scheme?
Godwin, for sure.
If it's not Evans, who's the guy?
Godwin, absolutely. Chris Godwin, because this is a team that you have to find the voids in their linebackers. They're going to play a ton of zone. They're going to keep things in front of them. You have to find the space. You have to make the tough catches. Tom Brady's making the window throws right now. He's not hesitating in the window throws. For a month, he hasn't hesitated on any window throws. He's putting the ball between the linebackers. He's playing fearless football. You could argue he had at points all season, but right now it's full confidence, full throttle. So those are the throws you have to make. When Seattle had success with the ball, it was Russell Wilson just gunning it into a tight window, and guy making a combat catch. That's Chris Godwin all day. He's got to be the guy in this offense. He's got to be a ton of catches. He's got to consistently get open. Again, Washington on the outside, 2 good corners. Kendall Fuller, Ronald Darby, they've played really well, especially in this scheme. They've played really well this season. Kendall Fuller is a baller. And Cameron Curl, one of their safeties, who's a rookie, has played outstanding football as well. 3 interceptions, and I think they've come in the last 3 weeks, something like that.
So he's definitely a hot player for them.
Right. And so they have the ability to match up and be unique with what they present to you. But the key is inside. They do not have the same type of defenders inside that they have on the outside. So they'll take away the vertical stuff. They'll take away all the stuff down the sideline for the most part. So, important to have guys like Evans. He makes one or two plays. I think, that can be great for them. He runs a corner off, hits some curls and comeback, stuff like that. But Chris Godwin, Lance sitting down in the middle, working those middle hook defenders, I think he's got to have a big day. And really, they've used more of those horizontal passing concepts, Scott. And so, AB's playing inside. And so he's going to have opportunities too. He's done that kind of stuff in Pittsburgh. He can be a possession guy or a big play guy or a yak guy. That's the thing about AB that makes him so
John,
special.
we're talking about this Washington defense, but we really haven't talked about the Bucs running game going against that defense. How do you see that playing out? Gilco 19 says counter the Bucs or counter the pass rush with the good run game. I think Rojo eats on Saturday. What say you?
Yeah, that's interesting because I think it was Haas Juke or somebody mentioned it in the comments a little bit ago, but they said, even though Washington has been kind of league average against the run and, you've had some opportunities to run it against them. And I think teams really have passed it against them more because they've been in close game. Washington's in a close game almost every week.
Yeah.
And so, even though that's true, you still have a negative EPA, negative expected points added when you run the ball against Washington. So again, it speaks to more like how it's so difficult to run the ball at a level needed to actually add value to your team. So that's why you can't get preoccupied with it. This has to be pass first oriented team. That's who they are. That's their identity. Don't get away from your identity. Don't care who the opponent is. But it doesn't, again, when you're in those second and third manageables and you're running the football in those situations, and you have to run it some on 1st and 10. So you run it some on 1st and 10. When you're in those situations, you have to maximize them. And that's what Bruce Arians has talked about all season or his pressers. It's not about how many times you run the ball. It's about making the most out of the times that you do. That's where the Bucs need to be successful. That's where they were great the last 2 weeks. They've been a pass-first team. Really, the last 3 weeks, they've been a pass-first team. But when they needed to run the football and they got in situations to run the football, part of it was because they were in unpredictable down and distances. But they've run it pretty well, Scott, for a couple of weeks now. And having Rojo back made a big difference the other week.
And, John, you know what 3rd and 2 is? It's a rundown in the NFL.
That's right.
Not enough teams do it. They go empty and they want to pass, but it's a rundown, especially if you get to 4th and 1 because you got a quarterback who can quarterback sneak it, just like Tom Brady can. But, you mentioned the running game. Rojo actually upped his average to 5.1 yards per carry. He's hit 978, about 22 yards shy of 1,000 yards. But, he rushed for over 6.5 yards per carry in just 12 carries on Sunday. So, and scored a touchdown. So good to see him back.
Well, he looked great. He looked great.
Yeah, he looked hungry. And I think that he was a little miffed. Maybe he didn't get his 1,000 yards. I mean, I don't know. We haven't talked to him, but listen, if you had asked Rojo, would you have rather gotten 1,000 yards or been stuck at 978? I'm going to take the educated guess to say Rojo probably would have preferred 1,000 yards. So I think he's going to have a little something, a little extra motivation to really eat, as Oscar was saying on Saturday night, especially missing those 2 games. So he just got a little bit of action, right? Leonard Fournette. Leonard got the start. But
we got the Leonard queued up.
Huh?
We're ready for Leonard. We got it queued up.
We are? We have Leonard this week?
We have Leonard this week.
Oh, we got Leonard this week. Oh, let's go, John. Let's see.
I feel a little bad because last week, remember, Britt had the appendix last week. And so I missed the normal show that I'd been on, which is Wednesday show.
I know.
And I would have had a praising Leonard segment because he did some good things in that game.
Right.
He juked out a Lions linebacker twice. And I was going to have the opportunity to say some positive things, Scott. But guess what? I missed the show, so we're not going to say any positive things. We are going to say a couple negative things about our friend Leonard. Leonard here with an opportunity to get out of bounds. This is the one where he should have got out of bounds. What are you doing, Leonard? The clock's running down, Leonard. What are you doing? This is the end of the half, Leonard. You have to get out of bounds. What? Yeah. Now you're going to try and take a guy out in the open field? You've been waiting for that all season, and here he is again. Pass protection opportunity for Leonard here. What? Pancaked into Tom Brady's back. At least he stood in there for a second, though. We'll give him that. He stood in here wasn't great technique, but he found the guy. He gets absolutely bulldozed. He's 6'2", 230.
And Brady made the throw, so we got some props there.
I think he stepped on Brady's foot and almost fell into but did fall into Brady's lap. But we give him some credit there. So. Wasn't the vintage Leonard week we've had other weeks. But speaking of Leonard, Scott, honestly, this game is an opportunity for the Bucs running backs. Like I said, Washington will drop everybody out and try and take away the vertical ball. They will get depth with their linebackers and try and take away the vertical ball. That is what they will do. And like it or not, Tom Brady has not been throwing it very much to backs lately. He's been putting the ball on the field a ton, but that's because they face defenses who played a lot of single high and we're blitzing a ton. And so there are opportunities down the field. In this game, Scott, the running backs are going to be open. I mean, they're going to be an option. See, like I said, Washington plays a ton of zones. So these guys are going to have space underneath. They rally to the football and they tackle well. But at times, there's the right read against this pass rush with how fast they're going to be coming. The right read is going to be to check it down to the back. Can they catch the ball? Can they make somebody miss? What do they do? How do they maximize their opportunities? That's
all right. Here's my concern. My concern is we've seen a couple of games this year where the Bucs have tried to force the screens to the running backs and they just simply refuse to catch the ball, right? And it ends up being a wasted down. It ends up being 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10 because which should have been an easy at least a 5-yard gain out to the flat was negated with the drop pass. We've seen Rojo do it. We've seen LaShawn McCoy do it. We've seen certainly Fournette do it, right? So that's my concern. The other concern I have as it pertains to that, John, because obviously that's one thing you can do to help alleviate the pass rush of Washington, right? As they're coming, right, get those linemen out to try to block and all that stuff. Well, you got to be careful because Montez Sweat, 6'6", Chase Young, 6'5". Both those guys have touchdowns this year. They're athletes playing defensive line, so I would be very concerned trying to throw over one of those guys to a back. That could spell doom, as we saw back in 2005. Sean Taylor scored a touchdown on defense that ended up helping the then Redskins beat the Buccaneers. So you can't give Washington a defensive score in this game, right? You got to play a clean game. The other thing is, as it pertains to catching the ball, John, is the weather forecast Saturday night in Maryland in the DC area, 43 degrees for the high, partly cloudy, 29 degrees for the low. It's 8:15 kickoff. You can expect temps to be in the 30s. Factor in a 10-mile-per-hour wind, and you're looking at a wind chill probably close to freezing, right? So you have Leonard Fournette, who played at LSU, then played at Jacksonville. You've got Ronald Jones, who's from Texas, played in Southern California, now plays in Tampa. You've got two guys that struggle to catch the ball this year, and they're warm weather kids playing in cold weather, not maybe for the first time, but they don't play in it regularly, right? And what happens, John? Your hands get cold, right? Your hands get cold. The ball gets hard. I'm just saying, if I'm Byron Leftwich, and I know what you're saying, right? This should be a game where there's opportunities for the running backs. Try it one or twice, but don't try to force feed the backs the ball. If you're going to throw the ball, Tom Brady, I want it in Chris Godwin's hands. I want it in Antonio Bryant's hands. I want it in Scotty Miller's hands, Rob Gronkowski. There's plenty of guys that have better hands than Rojo and Leonard Fournette to catch the ball.
But sometimes it isn't always that simple either. Like sometimes it's you got to throw the ball to the running back. Like he's the only guy open. They drop off and they intentionally play those 4 under and they camouflage everything underneath, and so you have to be able to throw it to the back and check it down and get 5 yards and hope, or more, and so it becomes the thing that's kind of out of Leftwich's hand and out of Brady's hand. And that's where it scares me because you have to have, one of these guys has to step up and make plays. It's like Arian says, everybody's like, oh, Donovan Smith against Chase Young. I see people in the chat asking like, how does Donovan Smith, against Chase Young, how's that going to go?
Right.
I don't know. Donovan Smith played his best football last month, but he hasn't been tested as much. He hasn't been tested like he will with Chase Young. Chase Young can do it all, man. Brady's better at, avoiding edge pressure. He's great at avoiding edge pressure. But again,
and Montez Sweat's no joke either. He actually led the team in sacks and again had a pick 6 against Dallas on Thanksgiving. The only thing I like about that matchup for the Bucs is he's going up against Tristan Wirfs. So I think Tristan's allowed 1 sack this year. That was to All-Pro Khalil Mack. Donovan Smith's allowed 6 sacks this year. So there's that. All right, here's a really good question, John. This doesn't have anything to do with Washington and Tampa Bay, but it's so unique I wanted to throw it out there. Will Brady get jersey retirement from the Bucs if he leaves this team to win the Super Bowl? So you mean if he's only a Buccaneer for 1 or 2 years, but it gets him to the Super Bowl and they win, are they going to retire number 12? You know what I say? Yeah, absolutely. Retire 12. Because why not? They've got plenty of other jerseys that they could dish out in the teens. Tom Brady's already had the best year for any quarterback in franchise history. Like he's
Right.
already. If you were to say who's the best Bucs quarterback in history, I would say Tom Brady at this point.
No
Then
question.
Mike Johnson, by virtue of the Super Bowl
Yeah.
and by virtue of a really good year in 2002, would be number 2. Then you got a bunch of guys like, Josh Freeman and Jameis Winston and Vinny Testaverde and Trent Dilfer that threw for a bunch of yards, and they've got franchise records, but they really, outside of Dilfer, who was on some good teams, weren't anything more than just quarterbacks on bad Bucs teams, really.
Right. And it's going to be fascinating for Brady in this playoff run because there's the whole wild card thing. He only played in the wild card like 4 times, I think, in his career in New England, and he won 2, lost 2. I don't care about the record. That's just a luck thing. But I think it's him against tough defenses this season. But really, I think more than anything, it's been this scheme and this offense against tough defenses this season. How has the group fared as a whole? I know we look. Brady, it's kind of everybody when they win, and then it's Brady's fault when they lose. And I think it's been so much deeper than that when they lose. This was not a team that was very cohesive against the Saints or the Rams. They did not have, in the Saints game, it was a lot of, it was protection. It was quarterback to receiver, so many miscommunications, a couple drops, in that game. And then in the Rams game, it was really a complete coaching disconnect from, how they had to play. Than what the Rams were allowing them to do defensively and putting them in a position to do. And so Ring of Honor, jersey retirement, statue out front of Ray J, rename the city officially to Tampa Bay. Yes, that should happen. Great stuff, Logan Merrick. That's funny. Good. I mean, but again, like this is Brady against Washington is fascinating, but I honestly don't like Washington hasn't really given it up to any quarterback this season. It's just, it doesn't mean you can't beat them. It's just not necessarily going to be like this beautiful work of art when you do. Like it's just how they play. There are ways to beat them. But again, I think I don't expect this to be a 350, 3-4 touchdown passing day for Tom Brady. If it is, we're going to be talking about the Bucs in a different light than we are right now. I'm just saying they're not easy to do that kind of. You're not going to get a bunch of chunk plays off Washington. We've seen them play all season. And really, since week 6, they really haven't given up almost in any chunk plays. And Bucs aren't a creative offense either. They just don't throw a million things at you. They have their guys and they think their guys are better than your guy. And, but again, with Washington, it's a lot of doubling those guys that would create splash plays when they go deep. There's a ton of bracketing and preventing that. And they basically make you string little plays together all game long to beat them. And if you can do that, you're probably going to get 20 to 24 points. And you'll beat them, because of the time that it'll take to do all that. And so that's what the kind of game it has to be for Tampa Bay's offense. I think they could do more damage really against the other teams that they'll probably face in the NFC. But Washington's defense, I'm telling you, I watched them on tape. I've seen all the statistics, all the numbers, all the analytics. Yeah. This is a really good defense. I don't think Washington is enough offensively, Scott. I know we're about to get into our predictions here. It would be a colossal disappointment if Todd Bowles' defense gives up enough points to this Washington offense to lose this football game. I mean, there's no way around it. They just don't have the horses. They don't have the scheme right now. I think they make the most of kind of where they're at right now, but it's a banged up, leftover version of Alex Smith and Taylor Heineke against a defense that's supposed to be one of the best, better top 10 in the league, one of the better ones in the playoffs, for example. They got to play like it.
I've seen a couple of comments and questions in there, obviously about what transpired today in our nation's capital. And that, today is Wednesday. If you're listening to this podcast, it's Wednesday. I don't envision, and I haven't heard anything from the team that would suggest otherwise. I don't envision this game being moved from Washington or having the kickoff time affected. I think if whatever happened in the nation's capital today took place on Friday, where you're less than 24 hours from that in terms of kickoff, might be a different story. But the game is played in Maryland, not in the nation's capital. It's about 5 miles away. And I know that seems like it's close, but 5 miles is also 5 miles. Right. And keep in mind, there's not going to be any fans in attendance for this game. Right. So there's no traffic issues there, nothing to be concerned about there. So I don't envision anything that transpired today in the nation's capital affecting this Bucs-Washington game on Saturday night. So
Douglas says, "Will Todd Bowles tank the Washington football game so Atlanta won't offer him the head coach job?" He could just say no, Doug. He doesn't have to take it that far.
That's true. It's a little extreme, right?
It's so extra.
John,
But I think he's.
what else? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say about Todd Bowles maybe taking the Atlanta job.
Yeah.
Trevor Sickerman, he's the guest for tomorrow's podcast, 7:30 p.m. We're going to talk about that at length. We have a little bit of different thoughts on that, so I'll save it for that show.
Yeah. So tomorrow night, 7:30. We're keeping it prime time all week. Yep. 7:30. We appreciate too. We picked up about 300 new YouTube subscribers just this week, since Sunday night. So thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you for going to pewterreport.com. Our web traffic is absolutely blowing up. We're off to a rocket start to 2021 here, the first week. So a lot of Buccaneer fans excited about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers playoff bound team getting their first taste of postseason action since 2007. It's been a minute, right? Yeah. But that's really cool. So if you haven't gone to our YouTube page yet, maybe you're watching us on Twitter, maybe you're watching the live stream on Facebook, you can go to YouTube, click on youtube.com/Pewter Report TV, or just do the search for Pewter Report TV. And then once you get to our homepage, just click on subscribe. It's free. And then click on notifications. That way, when we go live, you're going to get a cool little notification and you can watch us live. And the cool thing is, if you jump in halfway through or you missed part of the show, you can always go back and watch the entire broadcast. Or if you missed Monday's show, if you missed Sundays, you want to revel in the 11-5 record by beating the Falcons again, you can watch Sunday's show. So that's the cool thing. So we appreciate the two super chats Buccaneer Bruce out there in my hometown, Overland Park, Kansas. Here's some money to ward off Trevor's bad luck. So
we're going to talk about that
fate a little bit, John, by bringing.
I know we're going to talk about that on the show tomorrow, because we've got another funny thing that not a lot of people know about, where Trevor may have actually swung luck for Tom Brady the other way with the reverse jinx. And we're going to talk about how that may have transpired about a month ago on the show as well tomorrow.
So I know everyone out there is thinking, wait a minute, how in the world could you guys do game balls on Sunday night without mentioning the balls, the clean shaven balls that you get from Manscaped? Well,
we did it.
We did it, and we've actually saved the Manscaped promo for tonight, right?
That's right.
We're doing this because everybody wants our predictions, John. This is a widely viewed episode tonight. So happy New Year's from our sponsor, Manscaped. Manscaped, as you know, is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. And they're here to help you have clean balls for the new year, right? Bring in the new year with the right tools for the job. Happy 2021. Spoiler alert, hairy balls are still gross. All right, so step into the new year with your tree standing taller and shave your boys. Manscaped is here to give you a New Year's resolution that you're going to want to keep. The Perfect Package 3.0 is the below the waist grooming package. You need to start off the year strong. You've probably seen all of us hold up right here. This is the Weed Whacker 3.0.
With the light.
Actually, this is the Lawnmower 3.0.
Right.
The Weed Whacker is for the nose hair and the ear hair. Mark Cook was actually using that on the episode a couple weeks ago.
Terrible.
This is the Lawnmower 3.0. And the reason why I point this out is it's got a light. It shows you what's happening down there as you're getting to work. Very important, because you want to be very careful down there. But the Perfect Package 3.0 is the below-the-waist grooming package you need to start off strong this new year. Come out of quarantine with clean balls thanks to the Lawnmower 3.0. This is waterproof. It's got skin-safe trimmer. It's going to reduce the nicks to your two best friends down there. The third-generation trimmer even has the light. So one more time, right there, to shine a light to the promised land that 2021 looks to be. It's also time to freshen up down there in the new year. And when you get the Perfect Package 3.0, they're going to give you a couple of goodies. And I've got them right here. This one is the Crop Preserver. It's an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. I've used it, John. At first, when I thought, I'm going to be honest, when I got this, I thought, I'm not going to use this. I'll use this, but I'm not going to use this until I used it. Then you know what?
Oh, yeah.
It's good stuff.
It's good stuff.
You already put on deodorant on your armpits, right? Okay, well then why aren't you putting some of this down there in the smelliest part of your body? And for on-the-go freshness, you're going to love this. Again, something I didn't think I would use until, you know what? I used it. I figured
That's
I might as well, they gave this to me free. I might as well try it, right? And it works.
Awesome.
This is for the on-the-go freshness. You're going to love the Crop Reviver Ball Toner Spray. Keeps your boys down there nice and smooth. Start the new year with a fresh set of balls, thanks to Manscaped. Manscaped even threw this in. You know what they call this, John? They call this the shed, the travel bag.
That's right.
You can keep the lawnmower 3.0, your weed whacker, and you can keep all your goodies comfortably stored. And this is a nice travel bag. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
And the big surprise, John, was when they sent us this kit. This is the Perfect Package 3.0 kit that we're talking about, the ones I just showed you here. You know what they also give us? Some of the softest anti-chafing boxer briefs that you're going to find.
Yes, they are magical.
They are. It's the super soft comfort feel that takes your underwear game to the next level. So bring sexy back in 2021, guys. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code PEWTER at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. That's right. 20% off plus free shipping. It's a hell of a deal. You got to mention the promo code PEWTER when you go to manscaped.com. And you know what, John? I'm going to do this again. Hold on here. Just for the playoffs, I'm bringing it back.
Bring it back. Sexy?
Free Pewter Report t-shirts.
Let's go.
Here. Free Pewter Report t-shirts come in white, pewter, black. We've got these in different colors, different sizes. So these are awesome cotton t-shirts. So you can rep Pewter Report when you're out and about. And all you got to do is send me, you can email me at sr@pewterreport.com. Send me your receipt. It doesn't have any of your financial information on there. It just shows basically your proof of purchase. Email that to me at sr@pewterreport.com along with your address and your size and what color you prefer. And we'll send you a free t-shirt. Free. That's all you got to do. So we got 10 of these to give away. So send me your emailed receipt from your purchase using Pewter as the promo code. We're going to send you a free t-shirt. How cool is that to ring in the new year?
No better way to bring sexy back than to wear a Pewter Report t-shirt, Scott. That's the way to do it. Logan Merrick says he thought you were about to give a demonstration. He about signed off. I was actually a little bit worried too. If it would have been Mark Cook,
I had to go retrieve it. I was not going to show you my Manscaped boxer briefs.
That's good. All right, so we got to get to our predictions here, Scott. You want me to go first?
Yes, I do want you to go first.
Thank you, Buccaneer Bruce, by the way. Buccaneer Bruce putting a lot of money into the account for Mark Cook's new camera. Yes. So I really think Washington's defense is legit. So because of that, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Even if Todd Bowles' defense at times makes us go crazy, I can't see them giving up enough to seriously. They would have to collapse. They would have to make mistakes on offense, give short fields up, special teams. They would have to do those kind of things, in my opinion. It would have to be a Bears-like nightmare 11 penalty game performance type of thing, which is possible. It's possible. I'm going to say 22-13. The Bucs win this game. I think it's an ugly game. I think there's more field goals than touchdowns. 22-13.
Okay, that is low scoring.
Bucs win this game.
Okay, all right.
15-1 so far.
That's
not
right.
Picking the score, just who's going to win.
All right. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say that Tampa Bay they've got this first quarter lead thing down pat now, John. This is 2 games in a row where the Buccaneers haven't surrendered the lead at any point. They've had the lead for the last 8 quarters, and I think that's going to continue. However, I don't think it's going to be a thing where the Buccaneers are going to race out to a 17 or 20-point lead against this team. Washington typically kind of keeps it close, and I can see them playing into that type of mindset. Again, as you mentioned, Washington's Ron Rivera defense is no joke, especially with that defensive line. But I can see the Bucs getting a 7-point lead, 3-point lead, at different points of the game. I think they maintain that all the way throughout. They pull away in the fourth quarter, and I think they stick to their averages. I think the Buccaneers win this game 30-20. It's a late score for the Buccaneers, but they're going to do it. I think that they beat Washington and maybe go to Green Bay next week, right? I mean, if the favorites win, that's going to be the location they're going to go to because the Bucs would be the lowest seed. If Seattle wins, if New Orleans wins, that's the case. So Buccaneer Bruce, very generous tonight with his super chats. You still got to see Fast Times at Ridgemont High, John, and you got to tell Mark and I about it, and Buccaneer Bruce. We want a film review. It's one of the classic comedies from the '80s. So let's see some predictions here from you guys. All right, we got Jimmy's with me, Ryan Figueroa 31-10.
31-10.
You know, we got 28-17. Bucs move on from Will the Brewers.
40-17.
Wow.
Stairway to heavens.
Yeah.
Oh boy, if they score if it's 40-17, I'm telling you, Saturday Night Podcast is going to be lit. I'm telling you.
Wow, 41-10. Terrence, I listen. That's what I said. They're going to get their average. They're going to get a late touchdown to push it to 30. So they're going to be in the 20s most of the game, and I think they're going to score a fourth quarter touchdown to get to 30. So, but I like these here. I haven't seen any. Oh, whoa, Shea White, Tony, 23-14, Washington football team in disappointing fashion. All right, well,
somebody asked, by the way, if this season would be a disappointment if they lost this football game. I don't. It's hard for me to say whole season's a disappointment. Bucs had 11-5 season. I don't think you can say whole season's a disappointment, but it's a disappointment in the way that it ended. Absolutely. Now, if the Bucs lose to any of the top 3 seeds, I think that they could. It depends how they play, obviously, and what the concerns are moving out of games like that. But I don't think you can lose to Washington and consider it like this great season or whatever. Great regular season maybe, but it's about what you do in the postseason, and so it would fall short of being a great one to me. If that were to happen, this is not a team you should lose to. As good as their defense is, their offense, you shouldn't lose this game. And Todd Bowles needs to take that personally, by the way. Whole group needs to take it personally.
I think it would be a disappointing loss if they were to lose and make the playoffs and be, one and done. I've always maintained, and I'm not saying the Bucs can't advance and win the Super Bowl this year or even get there. I'm not saying that. But I've always believed that year 2 with Brady and more weapons on the defensive side of the ball that can get to the quarterback. I've just believed that next year can actually be the year. So if they were to win in Washington and then lose either at New Orleans or Green Bay, I would not chalk that up as a loss, or I should say, like as a disappointment. I would just chalk that up as a building block for 2021. That's
right.
How
Yeah, can't lose to a losing record team. Can't lose to a losing record team in the playoffs. Can't lose to an offense with 2 quarterbacks and neither of them are good. Can't lose to a team without a name.
And one last little stat for you. The Buccaneers are 10-0 against teams with losing records. John, this Washington football team, 7-9. So the Buccaneers, I think, will make it 11-0 against teams with losing records. But who's not losers? All you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight for another primetime edition of the Pewter Report podcast. John's going to be back tomorrow with Trevor Sikkema, former Pewter reporter, actually still a Pewter reporter. Once you're part of the Pewter Report family, you are still family. So we welcome Trevor back to the pod tomorrow. And so you're going to have even more analysis on the Bucs-Washington game, get Trevor's perspective on that, and also debate the whole Todd Bowles situation. So be sure to stay tuned for that tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern time. John Ledyard and Trevor Sikkema here on the Pewter Report podcast. For John, I'm Scott Reynolds saying we'll see you tomorrow night on the Pewter Report podcast.